Hello and welcome to YHTV's Trinity of Life. This is episode 70. I'm Christina Suzuma, your host for this program. Thank you so much for joining me as I continue to explore the wonderful world of healing arts, meditation, therapies, and the many modalities of helping each of us find balance in our individual journeys. We're always excited to meet those who are on the leading edge of creating change on this planet. Today, our show is creating a balanced environment for children. Now, at any time during this live presentation, you can feel free to ask a question or make a comment by scrolling down on your screen and typing it into the comment box. Or if you prefer, you can dial into our conference line at 323-476-3997. Your ID is 607393#. And if that went by a little too quickly, not to worry. During the show, those numbers will show up on the screen. Today, we have a very special guest with us today, someone that's very, very dear to our Yoga Hub family. She has been part of our faculty for our Virtual World Yoga Meditation Conference since 2010. And she was also the first on our Yoga Hub TV channel. She is actually the first, very, very first episode of Trinity of Life. And we're so honored to have her back here again with us. She has been a Kripalu trainer and teacher. She is a trainer and teacher for Creative Kids Yoga, a Kripalu yoga teacher, and a former elementary classroom teacher for over 20 years. And she's continued her passion for teaching the young and old techniques to transform their stress into greater calm and vitality. That's why she's on the show. You know, she continues to strive to help us become more mindful and happier and healthier in our lives. She has also authored a book, wonderful book, Creating the Peaceful Classroom, a 21st century wellness guide for teachers, students, and parents. And she continues to teach her workshops and also continues her private practice. I would love to share with you and welcome our wonderful guest, Sandy Bothmer. Hello, Sandy.
Hello. It's so nice to be back again. My goodness, I was just thinking about that first experience, and here I am, number 70.
Number 70, isn't that amazing?
Lots has happened since number 1. How wonderful.
Yes. So it's
and
time for you to come back and share all that you've mastered at the next level.
Okay, well, I'm very, very happy to be returning to you and speaking with your listeners. Thank you for inviting me once more.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
So, Sandy, in this, I'm sure a lot of people may or may not remember episode 1. Can you just share with us your history and your background so they all get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. Let's see. How to begin? I guess the way to begin is just to say I originate from the Chicago area, moved east to southern New Hampshire, and part of my teaching career started in actually Massachusetts, and then went back to Illinois, where I'm from, and then back to now New Hampshire a few years back. During that time, I've taught different levels, preschool and first grade and third grade, which was my love. I could always do crazy things, and third graders would love to do that. But then I did leave the teaching profession as in the elementary classroom, decided it was time to try other things, and I went into energy healing work and also yoga, kids yoga, which was my first training, and then into adult yoga. I'm currently working to complete my integrative yoga therapy training. That should happen in November. I'll be done with that. So I seem to have a lot of different hats that I wear from time to time. It depends on the day, and sometimes it depends on the time of day, which hat is put on. But I really find that everything is connected. And the book also came in there. I forgot about that. The book came in there in the middle of all of these things, which was a gift to me. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity that I had. So, yeah, Everything's connected through the heart. That's the way I see it. All heart-centered kinds of activities and work that I do.
Lovely. And clearly, clearly that's been your focus, from working
Yes.
with the young and now just completely sort of spreading yourself out there. It's amazing.
Well, there's certainly every age group is a little bit different. And, when I work with 3s and 4s, I have to be extremely flexible because I may decide, I think we're going to be doing something on the floor, and all of a sudden everybody's up. So we have to change gears. And it's like tuning into them and moving with them and forget the plan. Even with my adult yoga classes, I sometimes have to forget the plan just based on what I observe and I'm witnessing at that time, so we can move in a slightly different direction. Never know.
You never know.
Makes it interesting. Makes it interesting.
But you also work now with special needs clients as well.
I do some of that, and I have some kids that I've worked with that have been on the autistic spectrum. I have had an adult young man on the autistic spectrum with no language, and we do his yoga. It's Dan's yoga, which is very different from what you would see in a regular classroom. So yeah, I work with all different types of people on the spectrum, really. Lots of times with anxiety issues, and that seems to be quite prevalent these days with kids, and of course it is with the adults too. It's everywhere, unfortunately.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? Like where did that all come from?
I know. Well, I think it's a lot of what's happening in the world and the way things are in our country with the economics and how sometimes families have been thrust into a situation of loss of jobs and illness. All those things come together. And I know that in the school district that I had been working in, they do see a lot of kids with anxiety coming in. And, little kids. I was in a K-3 school, primary school, and that's pretty young to be seeing. We all have stressors for sure. But when they pile up and, that's when I think it gets to be a problem. And kids pick up on what they are around.
Right.
In the classroom, it happens, and I would say at home, it happens also.
Very much so. So, Sandy, creating this environment that we speak of that is balanced, and as a parent now, and also a volunteer at the school every day, and my awareness is really heightened. I become, very conscious of what's happening around me at all times, and I see a lot. I mean, and so much so, I see parents and teachers really, really wanting to do their best. Educating the child, creating this space for the child. And, here we are, parents running back and forth, working, picking up our child, doing homework, and creating that flow. And then the teachers, of course, with, I'd say on average, anywhere from, 24 to 28, 30 students in their class with no extra help. Well, it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, where do you say that we can start, that we can begin this process of creating this environment?
Yeah, that's unfortunately all too true in many places. I think if we're talking about at home, and we can also relate this to the classroom, I think we, at home and in the classroom, we need to create a space, the classroom space, the home space, that has the ability to nurture and support. So what does that mean? That means having it be a place that's balanced as far as how you arrange things, that you don't have clutter all over the place. I mean, I was like the clutter queen in my classroom and quickly learned that I had to put things away at a certain point. I was so busy teaching that I didn't always put away. But realized along the way that, that creates a sense of uneasiness in myself and certainly in some of the children. And if you start to think about children who might well be on the spectrum or have anxiety issues, I mean, that's making it worse for them. So creating that space that allows for easy movement, that is balanced as far as how we've arranged things, those kinds of things, the lighting, as much natural lighting as we can have, providing our children a special place where they do their homework, where this is where you go, and this is what this place is for. And it may be, especially with young children, they need to have parents nearby. So, and it's also important, I think, for them to be in furniture that fits them.
Oh, yes.
Because ergonomics, they have their feet on the floor and have a desk or a chair. And it could be just in the corner of the dining room that they have their little space, which is close enough, or in the kitchen, say, close enough to where a parent would be to be able to help out. If there's other siblings around, you've got to watch what the noise is. Is there music playing? Is that bothersome? You have to also tune into what you're seeing. So I guess I'm saying it's a combination of how we create the space in which we live, which is important. Having, live plants around is also helpful. And then how that's used with the child. I mean, if they're doing homework and they're having trouble concentrating, well, then you need to say, okay, what's going on around here that might distract my child from getting at what needs to be done. Maybe they just need to move a little bit. Maybe you just put some Philip Sousa music on and march around the dining room table a little bit to wake up. And then turn it off and say, okay, now we've had our break. Let's see how our brain can work now. I mean, I don't know if that's helping or not, but in the classroom, it's the same kind of thing. You have spaces in the classroom, and you have spaces that are for quiet things. You might have some rooms, depending on how many students they have. You're talking big ones. They may not have spaces for a little library area. There may be a computer area. You've got to think about, how do I use my space? How can I best arrange it to make it easy? How do I arrange my desks so that people can move in and out? One year, in the classroom it was 26 students, which was a lot in that space. And I was able to have interest centers and tables to work on things. And the kids, the first day, one little girl said, Mrs. B, she says, we're like sardines in here. And it was true. I had to take out at least 2 tables that were center tables so that I could make space, because they couldn't move. Really, I actually had long tables of desks. I didn't have them in rows. I had space. It was just hard to move without touching someone. And if you have a kid who's sensitive to touch, or he hit me, and it was an accident, I mean, you couldn't help but bump someone. So really being cognizant of your space and how can I best utilize that space to make it safe and to make it suitable for being able to function, to be able to concentrate, and to do their best work. That's what a kid's job is. Kid's job is a student, and they go to their work, which is school, and they are there to do the best learning that they can do. So we need to give them all the advantages we can at home and in the classroom itself to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, I keep thinking, at home.
What if we do?
It's like, it's because as you very well know, my home is my office. So even the dining room table has my business on it and things like that. And wow, when I can have that back, I am so glad.
I know.
And, it's resorted to the kitchen area, of course, the little breakfast table. What do you think about the desks in kids' rooms?
Having them in the room?
Yeah. How parents plan the kids' rooms with a desk in it so they can do their homework in it?
Right. Yeah, I think that may well depend upon the age of the child and how able they are to focus and concentrate and not be distracted. I mean, if the room is full of their toys and their favorite things, that could make working more difficult. It does give them maybe a quieter space, perhaps. So I guess I'm kind of waffling on that because I think it's a lot might depend on the nature of a kid.
Right.
And how they work and what they need to be successful in completing their work. I mean, more than likely along the way, as they get older, they'll be able to handle that. I mean, a kid in high school is probably going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, have music blaring in their headphones, and yet they can concentrate.
Right.
I mean, I could not do that. I was one who needed silence. I had to have a quiet place.
I was one that was opposite from you.
Oh, really?
I needed not blaring, but I needed the music.
Yeah.
And it triggered something in my brain that I could actually absorb.
So there you go. I mean, we're two different people as our children, and so many different types that parents have to be tuned in. And I think that's a big thing of it. Parents need to be aware, to be observant, and to know their child. And in today's world, it's hard to have those minutes to really be able to know. And that's the dilemma I think that a lot of families have.
Yes, it is, and especially if you have more than one child, I can't. Oh, one needs this environment, the other one needs the other environment.
So hopefully you can, if it's a 2-parent family, that one can maybe help one and one help the other. Because of the 2 parents, there's probably different styles also.
Yes.
Possibly. And that one child would be more suited with one parent than the other as far as doing the homework. So it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, if we ever knew the responsibility that was expected of us, we may never have children. The human race might not exist anymore. I don't know.
But I think, I do believe that through the generations, that has evolved into a different spectrum now. Because, when I was growing up, yes, the parents worked, they came home, they cooked dinner. Did you do your homework? Yes. Whether you did or not, yes.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there's a certain level of consciousness today where people are choosing to sort of go, okay, well, I would like to be involved with my child.
Yes.
I have to work all day. I mean, I know for us, it is that way. Yes, we work all day, but that time that we spend with a child that grows so quickly, it's even though it is homework and it is stressful, it can be very stressful. But it is that time. It is that time that we are sharing with our child.
Sometimes I think that's maybe the only time that can be found because the homework has to be done.
Yes.
And so what the child is learning from you is that you care.
Yes.
And that you're supporting him or her. And knowing that, if they have problems along the line, you've established and set up a precedence that, mom and dad are there for me. And I can count on them, coming in and helping me if I need to. So that's beautiful. And I would agree. I know in my own family, I see a lot of care and concern and time spent. There's a family day. My son and his children have a family day on the weekend where they do get together and do something special. And there's the homework. So yes, it's a good thing. And hopefully most families are of that mindset.
But it's very interesting. What I also have seen is the teachers who are very strict. For example, they're very precise in the work that they want done, in the responsibilities of their students. The children love them.
Well, I would say that they've set some boundaries. They have expectations, and the kids know what those expectations are. And because it's really clear. So when you're clear, there's no wiggle room. This is how it is. So I would guess that would be something that, for a lot of kids really need that structure. They do need structure. It's like they need to know what's going to happen during the day. That's why in most classrooms you'll see a class plan for the day. Because they need to know this happens, this. And heaven help if something gets in the way, they will tell you, well, why can't we do such and so? Well, because we're having a school-wide assembly or something, and well, are we going to get to do that anyway? I used to have that in my classroom with centering time. We always centered after we came in, and I got done with attendance and all those things that had to be done, and we came into circle and had our classroom meeting and centering time.
Oh, wonderful.
They missed the centering. If we had first thing in the morning, you had to get to the assembly.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of commotion about, well, what about centering? So I knew that was a really important piece of their day because it set the tone.
Right.
Set the tone for how we were going to move forward and approach our work. Doesn't mean to say that we didn't have to, go back and maybe quiet a bit again to be able to get to that place, to be able to do good work. But
right.
And on some level, which I don't know that they could articulate, they seem to recognize that it was helpful. It was important for getting them in a quiet place to be able to move into the day and get at their work, which I found interesting.
That's wonderful. Yes, because I can see. I mean, as an adult and as we practice yoga and different things in our life, and energetic medicine is always about that grounding, that stillness before you begin.
Right.
And is there a specific, when they come into the circle, were there specific techniques that you would work with them, Sandy?
Yeah, well, some of the time it would, of course, depend. We would do a focusing activity. I might have a plant that I would put in the center, like a fern, say. And they would be invited to just gaze at the fern, or they could softly close their eyes. And the fern was there because some families prefer that they not do that. So I have to honor that, not close their eyes. And
really?
So yes, there was a situation in the upper school where that was an issue. And so once I got wind of that, I thought, okay, I just want to be safe with all this because we're just relaxing. But for some families, that didn't feel right. So I had that fern, something to look at. And we would just sit quietly and focus. Now, there would be those children that would go into Gyana Mudra, because they had parents that they knew did yoga, and they would sit there like that and with a nice long spine. There would be the kids that would giggle and laugh. But over time, because it was new, they learned that this was a stillness piece. Sometimes we would have some paper and a pencil, and we would draw. And so we would look at that fern in the center and draw from where we were sitting what it looked like to us, and then complete that piece, and then just walk around the circle and look at everybody's drawing, and to notice that the drawings looked different. And why did they look different? Because they were seeing that same fern from a different perspective. And then you could talk about how we see life, how we see situations, that we see it from our perspective and not necessarily someone else's, which could, get you into any kind of conflict resolution or something like that. So that would be just a, way. Sometimes in the circle I had shells or stones, and I would just, to make it easy, I would give them each one, and they would hold that in their hands and just sit quietly and connect with that stone.
Beautiful.
as especially even put it up to their heart. I mean, you could do that also. So that would be one way, and then we might do some breathing techniques, just to be able to relax. I might teach them just how to breathe in and out slowly. With children, I'm trying to think, 8 or younger, I probably wouldn't get into a really involved description of how we breathe in, the 3-part breathing. I might use a Beanie Baby or a little boat or a rubber ducky on the belly and have them with a partner, so that one is the breather and one is the observer. So the observer is watching to see if that Beanie Baby went on a ride with the belly going up and down as you breathe in and out, or ride the waves with the boat, or the rubber ducky riding the waves. There is a breathing technique that's I would do, that would be just to release energy if we're kind of wired up and too noisy or whatever, and we would just breathe in and puff out and puff out and puff out until the breath coming out became soft and lighter than it was at the start. And that's good for all of us if we are, feeling a bit anxious or, just jittery inside, nervous, whatever. So those would be.
Wow. And that's wonderful. That's really, so this would be almost like a 10 or 15 minute quiet time, really.
Well, it would depend. I would have to, I usually didn't spend more than 15 minutes at circle time. So
circle
maybe,
time.
or I guess I called it community meeting, classroom, whatever you want to, but, yeah, I mean, if you're drawing, it's definitely going to take longer. If you are just focused on what's ever in the middle, it could be a vase of flowers. It would be much less. I mean, you got to look at the age of your kids. I think it's Eric Jensen that says children can only sit as long as they are years old. So if that's the case, a 6-year-old can maybe handle 6 minutes. Think about that in a regular classroom, in the classroom, and how much sitting there is. They really need the movement to help their bodies, and to help their brains work.
Yeah.
So it would depend. And I would have to know, what the day was like and what else had to be done and what was my focus. Right. What did I need to look at?
Wow. And it's so funny that you say that. It's not funny, actually. It's here we're speaking about, okay, if their focus is 6 minutes and they can only sit for 6 minutes, and now the schools have cut out physical education. So it's like, okay, yes, you have your recess, yes, you have your lunch hour, but that physical education where it's connecting, point A to point B in the body. And
so you're saying, is this at your child's school? There's no physical education?
Most of the inner city schools, yes, in California. Yeah, they do. I don't know if remember, but there was a time where there was the phys ed teacher, and he would take class after class on a schedule, and once a week or twice a week they would have physical education, where they're not just dodgeball and everything, but teaching you how to tumble, or doing the stretches and the warm ups and things like that. Even if it's for the lower grades, half an hour,
right.
The teachers are expected to do that now.
So that just adds another piece to their plate, which is very, very full. It's very difficult, I think, these days. It was difficult at the time I left the classroom. And I sense, and from some of the people that I still know teaching around here, it's the same thing. There's more and more added, and, to the plate.
Yes.
Now here we do have physical education classes. I can't remember how often they have it. Certainly they have it once a week, but they only have one recess, whereas there used to be, as I recall, the lunch recess, and then I think there was a morning recess also.
Yes.
So that there was more time to move. So, so what's going to happen, or what is happening, I hope, is that teachers can make little mini movement breaks. I mean, you've got to have some movement, even if it's just standing up behind their desk and, stretching. And there's a wonderful program created by Anne Green Gilbert in Washington State called Brain Dance. And she is a movement educator. And any of those movements, actually, I've written about her program in my book. So if anybody was interested, they could look there. It goes through the movement development of a child from birth to, I want to say, 18 months to 2 years. I'm not quite sure what the ending is, but all the different movements that we make as we are maturing in our movement development are gone through in this program. So you can pick one exercise and just get up and have them do that. For example, one of them would be reaching out and curling in. So it's core coming in to distal, moving out. That's a movement that an infant plays with as they reach out into the world to discover there's, more around them. So it's out and then come in. So any one of those kinds of activities could certainly be done in between things or during transitions. So you have to kind of get creative as to how to do these things. I used to have a magic egg And the magic egg lived underneath the desk, every child's desk. So when that first week, we had to find this magic egg. Now, you had to be careful because some children are very concrete at that age yet, and if they're reaching under there and there's not a real egg there.
Yes.
So I would say it's an imaginary egg, and even then, I would have to go over and show my hand, and say, it's here. See, just imagine that there's an egg, and I would just dip it into their hand. And then we would use that egg. I would put music on, and we would hold it in our hand and let it lead us through the room. So I didn't even move the chairs and the desks. We just moved around. We tossed it and caught it and tossed it and caught it, and under the arm and under the leg and anything I could think of, on the elbow. And they were also told that if it dropped once, that was okay. But any more than that, there would be no other eggs. So that sort of alleviated the kids that, some of those little boys that are all fiery that take the egg and splat it on the floor. No egg, I can't do it. Put it back together one time. So that's a little bit of an imaginative thing, but
that's great. That's great.
And they would do all these things, now a fourth or fifth grader is not going to do that. However, for a second, third grader, we'll do that.
But what's interesting is even the upper grades. I mean, for us, we in the acting world, it was called theater games.
Yes,
the imaginary theater. I mean, your imagination, and you're allowing it, and you're just change it from an egg to a big mud pie.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. I take those words back after I've spoken them, because it's all in the way we represent something. So with the older kids, you just go at it in a different way.
Yeah, because it's, I think even I know that for me, it opened up a whole new area in my brain to be able to intake a certain level of awareness, timing, the perception of what something was. And yes, I played theater games with my child since I can remember. At one, we're throwing mud back and forth and goopy things, and you're just like it's goopy, you can't just hold it. It's like, and it's amazing that expansion of not just creativity, but the mind is so pliable to be able to take it in. It's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, and they can transfer that to other things. If you're getting vocabulary in there, you're moving the body. There's a lot of problem solving.
I'm sure the parents must have really missed you when you left.
Well, I hope they do.
Oh my goodness, that would be really wonderful to have teachers that would implement things like that. Creative, very creative.
Well, you had to figure out, even then, it wasn't as rigid. It became more rigid by the time I left, but you just had to kind of weave it in and just know that they needed to have some way to release some of the energy. And then you have that lethargic part of the day. 2-ish, where everybody is slumped and their heads are on their desks, and who can think and create and produce things when they're in that state of being? So they need to have different things that we can offer them, that our parents can offer them, and say, Joey, when you get this way at school, remember how we did this before? So as parents, I think it's important that we're modeling these ways to take care of ourselves, so that our kids are seeing us use these things that help. Like, I can give you an example in my classroom, and you could apply this to your home. I had a spot that was called the thinking chair. And the thinking chair was for when you decided that you weren't going to follow our agreements. So we had agreements that we all created that first week of school. There were probably 5. And that was about how we were going to be in that space. And we all did our hands. We made a cutout of our hands and colored it in. The girls would have fingernail polish, pretty pink nails and rings and all this kind of stuff. And they would plaster around. So you would say, so Mary, I noticed that you have forgotten about our agreement. You need to go think about that for a little bit. And when you feel that you're ready to come back and join us in a good way, then I'm happy to have you here. So it was putting responsibility on them for their behaviors, for their actions, and not saying, you girl, it's more like, oh my goodness, I just see that you forgot. Everybody forgets. So think about it a minute. And so that was a place that, and that actually comes out of responsive classroom program. Different people call it. One of the men and third grade teachers that I worked with called his the think tank. That's very mannish, I thought. So it was a thinking chair, and I had it decorated and whatever. And I would put myself in it, and I would just say, oh my goodness. I said, I am really getting uptight. I think I better go sit in the thinking chair. And the kids would be like, what is she doing? She's going in the thinking chair. But, if I did it, they could see. And then one other quick anecdote it made me think of was just breathing. And apparently I looked pretty rattled one day. And a third grade girl in the back of my classroom said, Mrs. B, don't you think you need to breathe? And I said, you know what? I think I do. Thank you so much. So it was apparently I, looked like I needed to relax a little bit. And she had remembered that we did breathe when we needed to relax and reminded me that would be a good idea. So that's when you know that you've made an impression, that what you've taught has caught hold and has been integrated. When they start telling you you need to take care of yourself and how to do it.
That's great. I mean, that means that their awareness is just so open and heightened to be able to pay attention to that. That's amazing. That's wonderful. What a great story.
The other thing I just thought about as I'm saying it again was just her sense of being comfortable in our space, that she could say that to me. Because I think it might be hard for a kid to say that to whoever the adult is or the teacher. Right. So as I'm repeating this story, I'm thinking, well, that's a good thing, because she said it kindly, and she said it in a way to try to help me, which is what I was trying to instill, was an environment in which we care about each other and we're there to support each other and help each other, whether it be me helping them or them helping me or them helping each other. Create that kind of nice connection within the community that we created. I call us the Bath Marinis.
Sorry?
My children, my students were called the Bath Marinis.
The Bath Marinis.
So I welcomed them to my classroom, which I called Bath Marini Land. And so that kind of started us off in being, our little group within the larger school community.
Right. Yeah. That was your planet.
Yeah, it was my planet. Yeah.
So that's very interesting what you just said about the children, how they were aware of your state of being as well, and how wonderful that you didn't take offense in it. That I can see some teachers and adults kind of going, what?
Yeah, right.
You're telling me to do what?
Well, obviously a person has to feel comfortable with what or how they behave and how they act with their parents or their students, or their children. And not everybody would work in that way. I felt it was also important that we have mutual respect. So that, if it were done in a different way, it wouldn't have been acceptable, perhaps. It could have been done in a way that, but I like to think that we had that groundwork set at the beginning. And that started with creating that space.
Right.
That felt safe and felt nurturing, felt supportive, and we had our agreements. We worked together as a group. We worked in small groups, or very small groups, because at that age you can't have too many, and then brought all those ideas together, looked where we had the overlap and what those agreements would be, and then we could get rid of some things because we had the same, and then break it down. What are the 5 most important ways that we need to be with each other for this year in Bath Marini Land, or in Mrs. Carlson's classroom, or wherever.
Oh my
so
goodness.
I think that process of working together to create those agreements helped a lot, because they had an interest in it. They created them. with guidance from me. Obviously, as the parent or the teacher, you have certain ideas that you think are acceptable. So it's your job to guide them in that way so that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if one of the things is treat each other with respect, they might not say it that way, but you're kind of leading it that way.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's because you're in charge of your space. You are the parents or you are the teacher, and you have to have it work in a way that you can live with and support your values.
Yes.
So the same kinds of thing can happen in the home.
You
can come together. I mean, maybe you have a family meeting about what is a family and what does a family do? How can we have a happy family? What would that look like? How should we be with each other? Those kinds of questions.
Yes.
And involve the children in that discussion.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you. I think, and also I think it's very, it's almost invaluable, and that I know as a child growing up that we were not just part of the discipline, or part of the growing up was participating and being responsible. So from even 5 years old, 3, 4, 5 years old, we had our responsibilities. This room is yours. You have to keep it as such. Every week you have to dust it. You have to vacuum it yourself. You have to, make your bed every morning.
Yeah.
It's interesting how certain disciplines really create such a foundation of learning with a daily life, of, bring your dishes to the sink, or, really helping out. I mean,
right.
It's the respect of, if you drop something on the floor, you have to clean it up, and here's how you do it.
Right.
Whereas, it's lovely when it's done for you.
Right. Isn't that nice? Yes.
Right.
Yes. Right.
But, I don't, how do you feel about that, Sandy, about, the common daily occurrences, about creating that environment, but that, what if the child has to take responsibility in also creating that environment?
Yes, and I think that's a really good point. It is where they're living. Yes, you're helping create that, but they have to help keep it and maintain it. They have to help with and having those set chores and being expected to take, and then it's always age appropriate.
Yes,
you're not going to ask a 3-year-old to do something that you would ask a 10-year-old. So, and I think that instills in them, that sense of responsibility, and they can then take that into their school work, into their future jobs, into anything they do. That that you do something and you're responsible for what happens if you spill, like you said, you spill something, you clean it up, and you're teaching them those, as you said, you're teaching them those lifelong skills. They're going to have to know how to clean up a mess on the floor anyway, so they might as well learn it at 3 when they've created themselves. So it's also that this action created a consequence, and so now we have to do something about that.
Yes, absolutely.
And that goes into other kinds of behaviors as they get older. If they get caught doing something they shouldn't do, well, look at what you did. This is the consequence. Now we have to figure out, how can we rectify that? How can we make that right if you hurt someone or whatever the situation is? Yeah, so that's all good very good learning. Your parents did a good job.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it went a little too far. No.
Well, as the children and even the adult children,
it's so funny.
Feel that way.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, who we're about the same age, and we just said, even when we stay at a hotel, it's so hard not to pull the covers back up on that bed before we leave. It's like the respect of even the place that we've just rented for the night, right? It's like, it's a mess. We can't have that,
You have to pick up after yourself and at least tidy it a little bit.
Right. Isn't that hilarious?
The lights off before you go.
I know, or else tidying the house before someone comes to help you clean it.
Because you don't want to have to do too much.
Right.
Oh, dear.
Oh, too
But,
funny.
but
So Sandy, is there any pointers for us parents and the teachers about helping ourselves keep that balance so that we have the strength to keep the balance for the
yeah,
children? I mean,
right,
the teachers
right.
handling so many and us parents who are working full
Hmm,
time and
yeah,
cooking dinner and making sure everything is they're ready for the next day and their tests and
yeah.
ah, ah,
Yeah, I know it's overwhelming. I think it's staying attuned
mm,
to what's happening inside you. And when those moments come of just too much, just stop and pause and take a couple breaths. Just be with your breath. Look outside the window at something. Maybe maybe you've got a flower garden outside. Just change what you're doing momentarily,
mm,
and then come back to it. I mean, it's having that presence and quieting yourself a little bit. I mean, in the classroom, if the teacher's feeling upset, chances are half the kids are too.
mm,
So have everybody stop and let's just have a breath break. We're
mm.
going to breathe together. 3 deep breaths in and out. Puff it out. Let's do the puffing out. Until it gets more quiet.
Until they
So
faint.
well, hopefully not.
No. Oh, oxygen. Oh, oxygen. Woo.
Yeah, but you understand. I mean, just
Yes.
pausing. I think that just being aware of what's going on within ourselves, having that awareness of what our sensations are, what our feelings are, and noticing where they live in us, and recognizing that, oh, okay, my heart is pounding right now. I have to fix that. I need to take care of myself. What can I do?
Mhm.
I can breathe. I can put my hands over my heart. I can do a yoga mudra. A very simple one is to have your palms open, to curl the thumbs. I know you can't see my hands.
Oh, you can raise them.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh.
I'm going to go like this. Can you see my hands?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, curl the thumbs in, wrap the other fingers around them. A really soft fist, turn the palms over. This
Mm.
is called Adi Mudra, and it is very helpful in bringing the energies down very quickly. You don't even have to do the
Mm.
breath with it. And all of
Oh,
us
right. Ah.
often have our hands in a fist. Now you don't want it a tight fist because you don't want tension. You're trying to release the tension. So you sit with a nice, strong, long spine, and just hold it for.
Interesting. This like collects the energy.
It collects it, but it
Mm-hmm.
draws it downward.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're uptight, we're all up here, and that's, so we want to bring that down. So the opposite would be if we're really tired out, then you want to get the energy to come up. So that time of day at school when everybody's droopy, the biorhythms are kind of off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stand up again. So you take, let's see, I don't know if you can see me. Here's one. When you have your thumbs up. Do you know how you do a thumbs up?
Yes.
So just put your hands on your thighs.
Oh, with a thumbs up.
With a thumbs up.
Mm.
And just sit quietly, long spine, shoulders relaxed. And notice there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are used to a thumbs up. You do something good, so you can think, thumbs up, I'm going to get my energy up. I'm going to get more energized so I can get through the rest of this day. That would be so simple. And just say, at school, you could say, oh my goodness, girls and boys, you are so tired out. You're almost asleep at your desks. I think we need to do something about that. So you can just say thumbs up, put them on your knee, on your thighs. And if you want to, you can softly close your eyes. And just pause and wait a minute to 3 minutes. You might not be able to get them to go 3 minutes, but a minute or so, and it should make a difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well,
Quick
the children
and
are
easy.
so clean too that they adapt very quickly, and all the energetic work they respond quickly.
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
Not like us. We have a little more to chip through.
Yes, that's true. It takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. That's a very, very simple. So
Very simple.
thumbs in with soft hands facing down on the
Yes.
thighs.
Yes.
And to bring energy up, thumbs up and on the thighs.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't
So,
even realize. I thought, the mudras, we're so
well,
used to the mudras.
there are many of those, but these
Yes.
are very, very simple. Kids do them. We do them.
Hmm.
So you can more easily bring that into your life, I would say.
Wonderful. So simple and
Yeah.
yet, and for ourselves too. Okay, we've got mudra timeout.
Yeah, right, really. So you might use, within a school, you might use a hand gesture that
Mhm.
use the words hand gesture, which is what mudra
Yes.
basically means, a gesture. Yeah, and that would certainly be acceptable.
Wonderful. Now, Sandy, are these in your book?
The
This is,
mudras are not. If I were to do another one, they would definitely be in there. They're in my
yeah.
workshops. But breathing, the breathing was in there. The dragon breath, the puffing out was in there.
Hmm.
How to do just deep abdominal breathing is in there. So some other different breathing techniques. There's some yoga postures that work to help release tension, where we hold it most in the shoulders,
Hmm.
the back. Yeah. So, yeah, unfortunately, the mudras aren't there. That's my new thing. My
So that's
new,
going to be
yes,
in the next edition
yes, who knows?
or a separate book.
Or a separate book. It could
Yeah.
be
What do they
a
call
little
those?
manual.
The supplements.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or a complimentary book, or I don't know, whatever.
Oh,
Let's see.
yeah.
Let's see. I am working on some little rhymes to help younger children help put their hands in those positions.
Oh,
So
good.
that's something that's on the plate right now.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Yes, record a little CD so that the teachers can have it in the class.
Yeah.
I really find music is so helpful with children.
Oh,
Either
yeah.
brings them up or
Yeah.
calms them down, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the type and the beats per minute and all those things that are involved with music.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shake it
Well,
all
whew,
out.
get all that. Well, yeah. Sometimes that's what we need to wake up. That's another way to wake up.
Yes,
Just move.
I know that by the time my son and I get through about an hour to an hour and a half, I go, okay, it's time to dance. And I put on this CD and I go, okay, Gangnam Style, let's go.
Great.
And we're just dancing all around the house, whether it takes one or twice, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until I kind of feel,
Yeah.
that's all, the tension's all shaken out of both of us.
That's right. Well, because as
Both
a
of us.
parent, you're tense too, because you're so focused on
Yes.
getting the work done and understanding it. There's, oh,
Yeah, it's understanding it is like,
yeah.
what are they asking them to
I know you
do?
need the teacher to help you understand it so that you can help them understand
It
it. I mean,
is. It's quite interesting. I find it, but yes, we do. We need to shake it out, just like with them, and
yes,
and sit
exactly.
back down again. So, but I know that the moment of sitting still or bringing that light energy up will not work at that
Right.
time with my child.
Yes. Well, that's what's important, is to know your child and have this bag of tricks that you
Yes.
go to, because sometimes one thing will work and another won't. You have to figure that out for your kid,
Hmm.
which is what you're doing. I just thought of something too. In the book, there is an exercise called Jelly Jiggle. And it's
Jelly
actually
jiggle.
it's a qigong exercise that with adults you would call it bouncing, but it helps to loosen up and get the energy moving throughout the body. So it's in the chapter on movement in the.
Can you give us a little demonstration of jelly
Well,
jiggling?
that's going to be interesting. I don't know if I can do this. Let me see. I'm going to try to. Well, I'm going to have to tell you that my feet are hip width apart. Oops, I'm caught here. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see my legs, but you can see a little bit.
Yes,
All
yes.
right, so they're hip width apart, and your arms are loose at your side, and you just let your knees bounce, and you just everything starts to move. You see how my arms are just jiggling?
Hey, that's like me on the bounce ball.
That's right. So there you are. You're just jelly jiggling. And of course, if I was
I like
working with
that.
little kids, I'd ask them what flavor jelly they are, and they all sound, I'm strawberry, grape, whatever they are. And so what this does is it actually gets the energy in the body to move up and down and spread it out. Yeah. There. I guess that's enough
Wonderful.
of jiggling.
Well, thank you.
Well,
I jiggled
welcome.
with you. I was on my ball
I could
jiggling
see
like
that.
this. Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah, but it does make the difference. I mean, I do believe you're right about it. It is a qigong move. It is a
Yeah,
qigong
it's
move,
a qigong
which
move.
is just to make that energy, all
Qi
the
move up.
blocked energy, move out of the body.
Right.
Wonderful. Oh, good reminder. Thank you so much, Sandy.
So much.
Yes, it's like,
And
okay,
it's fun.
teachers, that's what you
Yes,
need to do. You know, it's like every day, just do a little, and you can have your lunch or
exactly.
during recess.
Exactly. Get them all jiggling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
stand them up. Let's do some jelly jiggle. We've got to wake up. Jelly jiggle, jelly jiggle. Then actually, I have a little rhyme for that I can't remember. That's something new also. It's not in the book. I made up a rhyme recently.
Well, we're going to have Sandy, what is your land?
Bothmarini land.
Bothmarini, the Bothmarini CD.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my goodness. So Sandy, we're at the top of our hour. Is there anything that we might have left out that you might want to share with our parents and teachers?
Well, let's see. We've covered a number of things. I mean, if they are interested in more, certainly my book is available. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Creating the Peaceable Classroom. And my publisher is Hobblebush Books. And I also have it on my website, which is www.peaceablepathways.com. There are some videos. There's a video page that shows some of the different techniques, me teaching some of them. There might be some of me working with children a little bit. It's hard to remember now, but anyway, they could look there. And I'm around doing some conferences. I'll be at the NEA New Hampshire conference coming up in early October, and New Hampshire Early Learning. And then I'm really excited about one coming up.
You have to come to the West Coast.
I know. That would be nice. I would enjoy that. Yeah, the University of New Hampshire does a yearly conference it's usually late fall. This year it's in December, and they're going to be doing it on violence in the schools. And so I'll be at that one also. So I'm looking forward to those. And I have a workshop at Moving Spirit, which is the yoga studio that I teach at. And this is one called Taming or Waking Up the Lion Inside, Kids Self-Care Toolbox. So I'll be going over some of these kinds of techniques.
And is that a children's workshop?
That's actually for the adults who work with children. So it could be parents, it could be any paraeducator, a classroom teacher, daycare provider, preschool teacher. So there's a pretty wide range. Anyone who works and cares for children, yeah.
Yes. And what is the best way, like, for example, if an organization would like you to teach a group of parents or a group of teachers, I mean, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Yes, I would say they can reach me at my email address, which would be Sandy, SANDY, at peaceablepathways.com.
Okay, fantastic.
And I would get back to them, yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you for suggesting that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like, okay, well, how do we find her?
Smoke signals.
Yes. And I'd also like to share with our audience that we're actually going to be doing another episode with you, episode 71, that has to do with the bullying that is all around us today. So we invite everyone, of course, to stay tuned for that the following week. Yes. And so thank you so much, Sandy Bothmer, for gifting us today with your incredible spirit. I mean, really, you share so much and you bring so much you are always so present with everything you share. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. I certainly enjoy working with you, Christina, and I'm just happy to be back again. I look forward to next week and going further. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Sandy. And
best to you.
Thank you. And of course, we'd like to thank Segovia Smith and the Yoga Hub team for making this possible. And to each and every one of you for joining us in this new platform of education and information. We're always grateful for your continuous support, and we look forward to hearing your feedback on how we can serve you better. We invite you to join us live on Tuesdays for Magical Medical Tour at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 Eastern. Wednesdays for Trinity of Life at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, followed every other week with Flowing into Awareness with Anatara. And again, we thank you, and we would love to hear your feedback and suggestions. If you know of other speakers or if you know of topics that you would like to hear about, give us a call at 818-LETS-TALK. 818-LETS-TALK. And until next time, namaste. YHTV's Trinity of Life. Come join me, Christina Suzama, as I journey to find the many modalities that support individuals, from children to adults to elders, with topics ranging from health and wellness, meditation, and inspirational stories. I invite you to visit yogahub.tv every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Many people that I know that are trying to diet, for example, and that seems to be on the minds of many today, they always feel, oh, if I miss a meal, that's much better because that way I can lose weight.
I am not an advocate of skipping meals because my experience is that it catches up with people. It's the old catch-22 of I'm going to be good during the day. I'm going to have this teeny breakfast and this teeny lunch, and then I'm starving and I'm going to crash and burn late at night and eat a half a gallon of ice cream.